And I wonder what it was that you were pursuing, because I noticed you have gone to many, many different places, many different jobs. You were a writer, you were a video editor, you were marketing. So what was it that was drawing you?
I always wanted to create work that has impact. Like I think I'll die in a place where they tell me like, oh, you write articles, but no one will see them.
We'll pay
So
you good salary,
yeah,
just write, but
yeah,
nobody
but
will
no
see.
one will see them, no one will care. I think that killed me lah. And I felt like at the company which I was at, it was a very niche company. So I always felt like there's not enough impact. So I tried to look for impact in advertising, where advertising is supposed to reach out to the masses.
I think like everything you
Yeah.
did after that, you always gravitated towards impact.
Yeah, I think so. Like all
And
about
you were
like
not
numbers.
happy when you were not able to get impact as part of your work.
Yeah, because creativity is one thing, right? But like the whole saying, like if the tree
Falls
falls in the forest, does it even make a sound?
and nobody sees it.
Yeah.
Did it actually fall?
Yeah, so I feel like if it falls in the forest, no one hear. Yeah,
I don't exist.
it
I've done nothing.
yeah, it did not make a sound.
Right.
So I went to advertising, which there was some impact on some level. Then I went to journalism, and I think at Mothership, I think I can confidently say there that there was real impact lah. We reached quite a lot of people. We changed the perspective on quite a lot of things. Although towards the end, maybe I was unhappy with the type of impact that I was complicit in. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing I'm curious about. You talked about impact. How did you define impact? Because it sounds like you define it by virality and how many shares and views.
So I think it's important to say like that is not the only way to measure impact, but it's one of the easiest ways to measure impact, especially coming from this industry, because you can argue like for 100 years or whether or not like your article will change someone's life. But if nobody reads the article, you can be damn sure no one's life will change.
Numbers is objective.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think in virality or creating content that is shared, I found like easy, if not flawed way to measure impact. And I still think that is quite an efficient way to measure.
But is that
impact
what matters to you then primarily?
So I mean, impact, there's two ways, right?
Yeah.
First, like it has to reach someone.
Reach someone, yeah.
Then the message has to be meaningful.
Yeah, meaningful enough to, what does impact mean? Does it mean change behavior, or
Either change behavior,
make somebody feel something,
educate someone, make them feel something.
Right.
I think I enjoyed my early days at Mothership the most because it was about like entertaining people. I remember writing some like I think it's witty, like I don't know if it can withstand the test of time today. We wrote one of like Lee Kuan Yew's famous quotes, like I will get up, and I wrote it in the voice of like different authors, like Ernest Hemingway, James Joyce, J.R.R. Tolkien. So that went viral, like, and I was quite proud of like little articles like this because my friends would share with me and like say, haha, it made me laugh. And I think back then the impact that I had was that I was entertaining people, and I think that was good enough for me at the time. It was much better than doing work that no one saw and no one cared about.
Yeah, and I think you also wrote this article about the king cobra that fought the reticulated python.
Yes. So that was also part of like the job at Mothership. Sometimes to entertain people, and sometimes it would be to create articles that I felt didn't really have a lot of meaning, but would entertain someone. So there was like.
But went viral.
Yeah, I know. But could you really say like that changed someone's life for the better? So it fulfilled like the first criteria of impact, people's life.
But your previous one, nobody ever saw it, so at least it's better.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But the next one is actual change.
Exactly.
Right?
So
quantitative impact, then qualitative impact.
Yeah. So we can sort of see it that way.
Yeah.
So what do you think was is the secret to virality? Because you had quite a few viral hits.
Yeah, I think there's no secret to virality.
It's a very complex question.
Well, it's a very complex question.
We actually have a 5-6 point PowerPoint presentation to talk about of variety, the beast of virality.
Yeah.
Like how we would like to define it is more like, to me, it's like lady luck. Like it's elusive. You shouldn't ever count on being able to just summon it at will. It might come when you least expect it, and it might leave you when you need it the most. So I never ever guarantee virality. And the thing to really focus on is value, not virality. That's how we kind of make our content.
Yeah.
But at Mothership, we really learned a lot about virality. Like I feel like I got my ass kicked by it a lot of times because just like any old good news media platform that came out in the last few years, you have your equivalent in Malaysia, like SAYS, for example, right? So this thing called virality is basically you want a lot of people to share and see it, but we also quickly understood that some things were just like you mentioned the King Cobra versus reticulated python. I mean, two old guys fighting in Geylang and then captured on a crappy little, vertical
Potato
phone
cam.
thing, 20,000 shares. So great. Okay, a lot of people saw it. But as a writer, can I say that I did a lot for it? Maybe you can, because there is a skill in hunting down the story, in finding it first and to put it out fast enough that it becomes the one that people share to say, hey, this happened, right? There's definitely a skill there. But can you definitely say, for example, in the reticulated python, or just two aunties fighting and they pull each other's hair, then the shopping bag fall, then all the shopping come out? Can you say that you are the one, like your eloquent writing in your prose, like made it go viral? Or is it just it's two people fighting, and then people like to see two people fighting? So not to diss the hunt, not to diss the ability of these people find viral news, but I put it into tiers. Like first a lot of people see it,
Like
which is respectable, but I respect it even more if you can conjure it out of thin air.
Yeah.
If you just come up with something and people like it, that to me is
Creating something that people like it.
Yeah, perhaps not another level of skill where it's a higher level, but it's a different one that I I gravitated a bit more towards.
I think so. Maybe to sum it up, I think the secret to creating viral content is to put the audience first consistently. So like both are very important. So put the audience first, basically give the audience what they want, understand your audience, create content that will resonate with them, entertain them, humor them, and
inform
them. Yeah. The other one is to do it consistently, because some people create really good content, then they stop. And then like there's no consistency, and consistency is really like a huge part in creating virality. We've known like I've seen a lot of creators, they create like a great content series, but then they fizzle out after a while, because maybe like the first 6 hits are viral. Then after that they do one with like only 12 shares, then they get discouraged, then they stop. So by doing it consistently and improving yourself over time, I think you kind of, not only do you develop yourself, you develop like the expectation that whatever content you put out will be good. And I think that usually helps us.
Do you feel that at that point in time, even though you were aware, like virality is impact is so much more than just shares, that you were, if you were tying your self-worth to articles going viral, do you feel that was happening to you guys?
Yeah, for sure. I remember like having this insane mood swing. So one day I'll write an article with like 500 shares. Then I'll feel really good with myself. Then I'll write some heavily researched piece that only got like 30 shares. And I'll feel damn lousy. Because in Marship we're already saying you're only as good as your last piece of work. So okay, my last piece of work got 30 shares. Wow, so I suck basically.
But I think to be fair to Mothership also, it was not like they don't recognize the value of a well-researched piece of work that has a lot of impact other than just going viral. They definitely did recognize that. It is just that you also, I mean, it's very understandable that in this age of social media, that virality is the premium thing that you want. So of course, we will also encourage to, whenever possible, go viral so that Mothership could be the one to. I mean, we're saying a lot of things about Mothership that actually is not. We are just saying our interpretation of it, So
yeah, we don't speak on behalf of
Mothership. But to understand Mothership's situation also, it is very clear to see that going viral has immense benefits.
Yeah,
immense objective benefits, and it's not like we don't respect that either, because we still look for that in our current work as a Woke Salaryman also. Yeah, we learned a great deal from there. It was a great place to be.
Yeah, and I think I also understand, because when nowadays people don't want to pay for news, right? Subscription model is just dead, right?
Yep.
And you need numbers to justify page views. So in a way, by not caring about page views, there's a possibility you become a liability to the company. I think there's a very real chance that you become the employee who just say, oh, we should do original creative content, but you don't really produce the views.
Yeah.
So I think there's always a line to be. I mean, there's always something to be balanced there.
Yeah, I feel like the correct perspective is, like how cats are, like they kind of want you to pet them, but they don't want to show that they want you to pet them.
Yeah.
So they just kind of look at you from the side, like, I don't really care, but I kind of care. That's how you gotta treat reality. You can't like go up to it and hey, please come to me.
Yeah.
Like you gotta
The cat run away.
Yeah, I gotta play cool, don't But we want it, that's the thing,
I think, Wei Choon, correct me if I'm wrong, you were also doing Chunzor comics on the side as well, were you?
Yeah, I was just trying to express myself in another thing that I could own by myself and not have to run it through anybody. But I mean, to be honest, Shunzot was something that I just did for fun, and I had fantasies that, of course, things would go viral, and some things did go viral. I made a couple of videos that had good traction here and there, and then some of my comic strips people would share. But I never thought about monetizing it, and that is the big thing, lah. Like a lot of people can go viral, lah. To be honest, reality is not impossible if you try long enough and hard enough, and if you're honest enough, it will just come. But the real creativity to me right now is also how you can monetize it, because if you're doing something amazing for society, if you're doing a great page that society needs, right, it's also, I feel like there's a little bit of a responsibility to find out how to do it sustainably in terms of money so that you can keep doing it in a very honest way. I think that's just part of the thing. There's no good saying, I'm doing it for free as a social duty. Okay, that's all fine and great, but can you find a way to make it profitable? Because I think society will benefit even more, because then you can do it full time and you can do it in a way that, you can stick close to your values because you do have an income coming in from that. And I think that's the best way to do it. It's very difficult. Yeah.
And were you also
even
going? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, even social work need to be paid like a sustainable wage, right? You can't just help people at your own expense. Now that in the end you're the one that needs help. That's like jialat already.
And Wei Choon, you mentioned that you were not thinking about monetizing. Like, at what point did you become serious about it? Because I think you were also going on boards, right, online forums, and asking personal finance questions to learn more. Was that the same time?
Is it serious about personal finance, is it? What do you mean?
Yeah, just in general, you were asking questions to learn more.
Yeah, I was lah, but the online community when it comes to personal finance can be a little bit impatient, because I mean there's not a lot of people that really delve into personal finance deep enough in any given country. I think that it would be considered mainstream. But people who do dive into it get into it very, very, very deeply, and you can see why lah. It's very gratifying, first of all, to earn money, because it's something that a lot of society wants. So you feel like you're very smart, first of all. And then also, what is often a necessity when it comes to being a good investor or a good trader is the ability to go against social norms. So I find this online finance communities can be quite impatient when a newbie comes on. So I remember asking some very basic questions, not because I don't know the Google answers, but to really possibly stoke a more nuanced conversation among these experts. And some of the forums that I went to were quite hostile. So I find it very difficult as a beginner to even enter into the space and ask specific questions. Like sometimes it's not even like I want to invest, I kind of know what I want to buy, the passive fund I want to buy. How do I create the account? Like there are things like that. Then if they give me a quiz, because I need to create a stock account with the Singapore government, that kind of thing, or banking system, like do I lie to answer the questions? Because if they ask for 2 years stock experience, obviously I don't have that experience. So do I just take it and then move on? So it's great that I Ruiming, so I can ask him these kind of stupid questions. And I really felt at that point in time like, wow, somebody needs to exist that is like for the layman, because like it's so good for the greater society and most people to really delve more into personal finance. But the barriers sometimes are so high.
Yeah, it's very high.
Yeah.
Even going to create like a brokerage account, like
I backed out so many times.
Yeah.
Just I create the account and I get stuck on the question like, don't make it. Then I do that 3-4 times.
You just give up.
Then I get a bit further. Then this one I don't answer. I forget it.
Some people go through this process and like they don't invest for like years, like 7 years never invest, even though the
intention is there.
Intention to start, and that's how like procrastination happens.
Paralysis.
Yes.
So Wei Choon, you alluded earlier that you referred to Ruiming for a lot of these questions because you actually face something quite important in your life that caused you, Ruiming, to really care about personal finance. What was that?
Yeah, so my mom had like a bad stroke in 2014. So, and we had to look into how we could possibly finance the recovery process. I mean, before that, I was really like, I already did some research about money stuff. Of course, I just became an adult, right? But I think that was then I decided that, well, I need to become rich so that even if I had to drop everything and look after my mom in the future, like money wouldn't be an issue. So I started reading a lot about like all this personal finance stuff, saving, investing, earning insurance, that kind of thing. I would say that I am not like a super good investor, which a lot of people think that personal finance is about. A lot of people think personal finance is about being a great investor and then becoming rich over a period of 5 years, purely through investing. But I would say what I am better at is finding ways you can increase your income, which I feel is a more important priority in your 20s and 30s. Because if you never earn enough money, then you will never be able to invest a lot in reality.
You mentioned getting rich. Do you have an idea or definition for what would constitute rich for you?
Yeah, so initially before COVID, I had this figure in mind. It was like 500,000 Sing. By the time I turned 35, I would invest that money and then I will get to work on things that I like to do versus like working for money lah. Then I'll just let that 500,000 grow over 30 years. Then I'll be able to retire as and when I want. So that was my initial goal. But I think COVID has kind of shown me that, well, actually life is damn unpredictable. And I should be pursuing like a slightly more ambitious goal if I have
20 million.
Not 20 million. I mean, if like I have the capability to do it, I don't know. I think 1.2 million would be nice because in the future I might have kids. I my
You want a bit of
parents.
buffer.
Yeah, a bit of buffer lah in case.
You need to change priorities. You want more things,
exactly.
right?
Because people change over life, right? And I have like elderly parents, and even though they are financially okay, what happens if they are suddenly not? So these are all things I have taken into consideration. But yeah, COVID has been a wake up call in many sense of the word.
Before the 1.2 million, before the 500,000, there was the saving 100,000 before you turn 30. So how did that come about?
So I was reading an article online and they talk about this thing called the 4% rule. So the idea was that you can expect 4% returns if you put your 100K into, if you put your money into like safer investments lah. So the idea I had in my mind was like, oh, actually if I can save $100,000, I'll be able to earn 4,000 of it every year. And that's 1 month off. And if I do it 12 times, I can basically retire lah. So I did some Googling. I found out like quite a few people were on their way to saving 100K. I think there's this budget blog. There's this blog that I read, Budget Babe, who we're friends now. So I actually tracked the journey. I follow it quite closely. So she also helped me with like a lot of resources in the beginning stage, or like mindset change, things to do, and little ways you can cut your spending.
And that article actually went viral. And I wonder, like, do you know why that is? Is it because it was so unusual for people to even think about saving, let alone saving so much by that time?
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw it as like a flex. Like, you save 100K, now, like, wow, look at this person, you can save 100K. Where is your 100K? So I think there was definitely that, I would say, salty angle there. Like I'm showing off, and people felt like, oh, wow, this person save 100K, he's better than me, blah blah. I think that was definitely one of the reasons. Another reason I felt was like I tried to make the article as balanced and as helpful and as inspirational as I could. Actually, I was in quite a dark place when I wrote the article. I was feeling quite. I worked in advertising for 2 years then, and I think like when you work in content and work in advertising, there are two different things. So from the mothership environment, I went to the advertising environment. I honestly didn't fare that well. And I remember thinking like, oh, how I wish I could create some sort of content to tell myself like, hey, actually I'm still quite a decent writer. So I think I just spent one weekend like pouring my heart into writing this, I feel rather heartfelt piece. And when I wrote it, I didn't have the intention for it to go viral at all. I just wrote it with the intention of like expressing myself and really documenting all the emotions that I felt during like the 3 years that I saved $100,000. Yeah, and I think maybe it was because it was quite still relatively novel concept at the time, and I think that definitely helped. I think if you wrote about how to save 100K by 30 today, it would not get as much traction. Unless you do like 200K by 30, then yeah, I mean, the number just has to go up, right? Inflation.
So once
Yeah.
you got that virality, did you think of leveraging on that to build something? What was the plan?
Not really, but that article gave me the confidence to quit my job then, because I was feeling pretty shitty. So seeing an article go viral reminded me like, hey, actually, maybe I'm just not being utilized well. Maybe there's still value in some space. So it didn't really help me start Woke Salaryman, but it helped me like have the confidence to leave my job. And then a couple months later, we started Woke Salaryman for real. But I think the motivations were different then. Yeah, we never thought of monetizing until Wei Choon started adding illustrations into it. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And were you surprised by the fact that once those comic panels were added, that it just went even more viral?
Yeah, actually, I knew from the start already. I said like, hey, Wei Chun, I have this. I think you add your illustrations to it, right? I think you'll do them well. But I think he was very busy so he sat on it for 2 months.
I'm naturally very pessimistic. So like, or you come here, assign me work to do, not paying me anything. So I procrastinated on it. I didn't really draw properly. But when we draw it and finally published it, like it just went crazy. Like 6,000 shares in the first week. And then we were like, wait, this is something.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
this we need to now contend with this being a thing in our lives. Like, how do we do this? What's going on now?
Yeah.
Like, what happens now? Yeah.
So how do you figure it out once you two realize that, okay, this partnership could actually work? What was the plan?
Well, actually, our plan was just to create content regularly. And then one of our initial plans was to show people we could create content about boring stuff really well, which is personal finance. Then we would sell
workshops.
Sell workshops to companies on how to create better content.
Yeah, so it's like if you are a big company, a corporation, and you thought about creating your own B2C Facebook page, and how to educate your potential customers, not even existing customers.
You can be your consultants, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll be consultants. We'll teach you guys how to do that. So Woke Salaryman was going to be our portfolio, but then monetization came to us also. We also didn't expect it to come the way it did. Then we just had to roll with it. Our plans all went out the window, and then we just did this other thing called sponsored content that we started doing.
Yeah.
And then that began the plan. Yeah.
And was this all under the umbrella of Woke Salaryman already? Did you already have that name, or were you still trying out different variations?
Yeah, I think it was really called Woke Salaryman.
So he made a Facebook page called the Woke Salaryman.
Yeah.
And the first thing that he posted was a Drake meme. You know the Drake thing, the yes and the no. Yeah, so he did one about that. And if you go back far enough, you can still see that post. Like we keep it up there like a freaking relic or something. And then the second thing that we posted was the article with the comic illustrations that did 6,000 shares.
Yeah.
So based on that, the Woke Salaryman was already as is, and we kind of understood we had something. So we're like, okay, let's make more. Let's do more stories. If this takes off, we can do this, we can do that. And it kept going.
I think we never really had like a clear business plan. I think a lot of entrepreneurs say, "Oh, I knew this from the start." I think it wasn't like that for us. Ours is like a constant journey of like adapting, seeing what could work, seeing what could not work. Because I mean, we're also not expert businessmen or entrepreneurs. We're still trying to figure stuff out.
So did you? I mean, I imagine it's to run Woke Salaryman is so much more than just drawing and writing. You have to manage social media accounts. You have to reach out to people, interview people. So how did you figure out that division of labor between the two of you?
I think most of the illustrations that only Wei Choon can do. So, and that's also one of the most like labor intensive and time consuming parts. So I try to help out in like the interviewing, the
research, like talking to other experts about topics that we might not be experts in.
Yeah.
And then Ruiming starts most of the stories. Most of it is he write on a Google Doc either in a Google Doc or
Google
Google
Slides.
Slides. Then he'll send it to me, and I add sketches on top. I send it to him. He vets it. He did, oh, this one changed, read that one.
Yeah.
Oh, this imaging is problematic. We might get cancelled by
Yeah.
social justice warriors. Then we change it. So it works in that way. And I write some stories, but he writes most of it. Yeah, but I also he's nice in that he allows me to sort of have my comment on the articles as well. So I'm not just drawing, I'm also a sub-editor, and I vet it in terms of language, in terms of typos and stuff, because he in his speed of thinking there's a lot of typos and grammatical errors and stuff, so I'll clean that up. And then I also check it for laymaness. Like, because if I don't understand it, like the average person, and our readership is very broad. We usually have our stories written so the absolute beginner can understand. So if I don't get it, most people won't get it. So I always try to pull it down if it becomes too complex, you know. And it's very difficult because it's just in the nature of writing stuff that you sometimes look at it so closely, you can't really assess it from an objective and mental point of view. So having a secondary eye, whether expert or not, sometimes just helps, you know. And stuff that I've written, it has benefited so much from going through him also, just helping me check it.
Actually, Wei Choon, I think because he did his masters, so actually he has a very like academic way, which I really appreciate, because like I'm not the type of person, I just write like what flows, what comes to my head, but I think he has a very like good way of constructing arguments and
I use big words and stuff, because big words is not just big words to sound pretentious. Like, big words are precise. I don't just say it's interesting, I say it's compelling, or that it is gratifying or something like that. And it's not just big words for the sake of it, it's precise. And also my academic rigor kind of allows me to check some of the points that he makes, because in academia, if you write stuff, right, you can't just say A, C, F. You gotta go A leads to B leads to C leads to E. So I always like, so can you say that? Is that proven? Is that actually from a source? If that's a source, we need to put that source down, because otherwise people whack us on that. And that's my weakness as well, because I tend to be very pedantic, and I can go on and on and on, because I like to see the same thing and make the same point from different points of view. You probably will notice that throughout this interview at some point. So he is the copywriter. He writes stuff that is short, that will convert into action. So he also will pull me back and say, okay, that's a bit too long-winded. You've already said this point 3 freaking times. Let's just take this one, this is the most powerful one, and then we need to do the next point. So it's a good yin and yang.
It's a combination of like two types of writing, I would say.
So it's not just the writer and illustrator relationship, which would, I think, limit a lot of the success that we've had so far. So us independently being able to write and conceptualize helps a lot also. We check each other's blind spots quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this discussion is very important, because it shows just how much work goes behind the scenes just to produce this one thing. It's not just one day and everything comes, like so many different iterations and discussions. So how did you figure out your content creation schedule? Because as you mentioned earlier, that's the most important thing. You have to be consistent. But then there's so much work involved and it's so hard to stay on top. So how do you figure it out?
I think initially it was damn tough. We wanted to publish like once or twice a month, but because we were still doing our full-time jobs then, and it was damn challenging to come up with like 2 content pieces a month, especially with the type of illustrations that Wei Choon had to do. So actually we argue a few times about when to publish. So my weakness is that like 10 days really, you know, like if you want to be a content page, you must do it consistently. But Wei Choon will be
fucking drawing until 2 a.m. What do you want me to do?
So there was definitely that tension there.
But it was also very important for us to be doing this as a side thing, because it meant that because we're doing 9 to 5 and doing this as a side, right, we can't just be bought out quickly by anyone who wanted to sponsor us. So we could really stick to our guns and turn down money on the table at a point where if we really quit our jobs to do Woke Salaryman from the get-go, we would have really needed that kind of money. And we might have taken on sponsored content that we did not feel like we should have taken on. And that I felt has made all the difference. So actually, in hindsight, it was a good move. I think the arguments also, I mean, I said it loudly just now, but actually I did not say it like that. I mean, when we have conflict, we're usually quite chill. We don't do that. So usually he will also listen and try to see my point of view.
Usually I'm more naggy than aggressive.
Yeah. So I get the cue sometimes, and then I might also be annoyed, but I also understand that I always understand that he's trying to make the content good and consistent so that our readers will benefit.
Yeah, and
so
it's
based on that,
same with him.
yeah, so based on that, we always
just trust
know
right?
how to it's trust. But initially it was also like you said, trust. So our working schedule was not very concrete at all. Like he just when he wanna pick some story out, he'll pick it and then he'll send it to me. I'll look at it. Then when I can find time, I'll do it. Then I send it to him.
Yeah.
Then we just kind of publish and the schedule came from that. Nowadays we try to post once a week. But nowadays, when the schedule shifts, it's more like the client shenanigans. You know, it's not so much like our way of working is pretty solid when it comes to just both of us. It's just when we expand, then when we think about other teammates coming in, then we need to worry about scheduling. But so far, not quite there yet.
I don't think when going back to like content creation schedule, right? I don't think there's ever like, oh, it's Father's Day, so we should publish this. It's Mother's Day, so we should publish this. I think we just publish content that we genuinely think is useful and resonates with people.
Yeah, if there's a chance to do something on Father's Day that resonates, we'll do it. Yeah. But for example, New Year, right? We didn't do anything. Yeah. We just didn't do anything. Like, it's like there's gonna be a cacophony of things. Just everybody doing, you know, New Year this, New Year that. What do you do? You just let people do the thing. We will come back next week.
Yeah, I think today like Women's Day. Hey, happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.
Yeah, but we don't really publish anything. It's not that we don't care about women's issues. It's just that we just didn't have a great story to tell Women's Day.
And we have done just recently. We did 2 stories about women. They were very women centric. One about divorcee. Actually, 2 about divorcees.
Yeah.
You know, one about someone who just got divorced, and then one about a woman who struggled with the fact, and her husband particularly struggling with the fact that he earned less than her. Yeah. So I mean, okay lah. You know, I just reshare on my own LinkedIn. That's about it.
We just publish what we think is good. Or what is available. I learned this lesson at Mothership also. So there was a period of time I went around at Mothership. I was shooting videos called Exploring Singapore, and this would be cool places of Singapore, which I'll just go around with like a point and shoot camera, and I'll just I'll just film it. And I think the first few videos went viral because they were places that I thought were truly cool. But then when my boss said like every week you must publish 1 video, that is when performance started to suffer, because in my mind I was pressured to produce something by end of the week, right? And like the fact is there are only so many cool places in Singapore, and I always thought that is quite similar with content. If there's nothing good to say or nothing useful to say, we're not going to publish something like meaningless just to fill in the void. Like we don't believe in that. If you either say something meaningful or you don't
you say nothing at all, right?
Yes.
As Ronan Keating said.
Yes.